Good morning and Merry Christmas. I recently have been wondering something because I watch other people do it and I watch myself do it. And I actually had an idea to talk to my sister about this when I go home to visit for Christmas and then post that, which I might do that too because that would be fun. Her and I love to go, we get really abstract together. But what I'm wondering, and maybe you can relate, is like, say you have a friend that's in a relationship and they complain about it, but they stay. For me personally, I've just had more girlfriends, so I've seen the girl's side of it. So I don't need to stereotype as if men are bad, but from my perspective, it's like, okay, from a girl's perspective, what I've seen happen a lot is a girl it'll be her birthday, and he, all prefaced how much birthdays mean and all that stuff, and how happy it would genuinely make her. And typically it's like a roommate situation or someone that I'm with during that day, and I'm just watching her look at her phone, there not be a text, look at her phone, there not be a text, and it hits 3 p.m. and she's gone through so many emotions by this point. He's forgotten, he doesn't care, there have been tears, and then suddenly a bouquet of flowers arrive at the front door, and she comes in smiling, and the entire day of sadness and heartbreak up until 3 p.m. is suddenly forgotten, and it's oh, he loves me, has her flowers, and it's you forgot how sad you were, how disappointed you were that he didn't say good or happy birthday, good morning in the morning, or he didn't quite come through on what you said. Another example I've heard is Valentine's Day, and woman expresses to man what would make her so happy is some roses, and he comes and picks her up for dinner and they're lilies. And because it's so subtle, and because of the storyline of, oh, you're ungrateful if they're just flowers, you kind of minimize your feelings and you take the lilies and don't complain. But there's a part of you that feels why didn't they listen though? Or maybe you took them to a social event and your partner doesn't quite connect with the people that mean a lot to you, or you have to do the socializing for them, and you feel, these are all examples I've heard from friends and some I've experienced myself obviously in my life. But I do have a point to this. So just examples, I'm giving more examples so more people can possibly relate. And I've been wondering why, because I've done the same thing. I'll have this desire to be understood or seen in a certain way, and there's a subtle mismatch that says I wasn't quite listening, or I'm gonna do things my own way, not the way that you explicitly told me would make you happy. And I think it's a lie that there's not relationships out there that are based on more mutual happiness. I don't think it's to make each other happy. Not that you need the person to be happy, because I wouldn't want to be with someone that I was their sole source of happiness. But I definitely would want to be one of them, you know? And that's, I think, where the disconnect with so many women and men can be, because women typically have more that mindset of wanting to make people happy, but that comes, I think, from deep societal conditioning of that's where our worth came from when we were younger, is we could embody positive experiences and not the negative ones, you know? Just like men couldn't cry, like girls are told not to be angry. Not that boys are told they can be, but they're allowed to express it and aren't punished as much. Like a boy can hit and it's like, oh, don't do that, he's just being a boy. But a girl can and it's like, hey, that's mean, you know? So we're just conditioned a little differently, and women, I think, are more conditioned to just like want to make someone happy more often. This is not an always situation, it's just a thick pattern. So my question has been, why do we go back to relationships, and men too? I'm like, I don't fully see that side of it because I just have less heterosexual male friends and don't get to see their perspective on their dating, so I don't mean to disclude that side, I just don't have experience there. But what is it about those situations where someone is just like subtly keeps disappointing you very subtly, and it chips away and it builds up and it makes you angry, like you in the middle of the night, or they do one more thing, the next time they bring a lily and not a rose, you blow up because it's like, you never listen, and they're like, whoa, I just got you a different flower. And you feel so invalidated, and there's this little like angry part of you that you think that you need to be like stoic. And I've wondered, why do we do that? Why do we continue to go back to those relationships, stay in it, you know, erase the sadness of the previous day because they sent flowers the next day, or erase the lack of emotional awareness because they cry in front of you one time? All these different ways that it's just too little, too late, but you take it anyways. And I've just kind of wondered, why do we do that? Because I've done it too. And I think I realize, because I've also, on another hand, I've been talking about just the concept of love so much with, it's just been coming up in my life, so naturally, just in conversation with people. And like this, it can be so, one of the greatest and one of the worst feelings ever. And it's like, how do I have love that's more stable and not so great and I'm so angry and then I'm so happy, you know? And I realize it's because we abandon ourselves for love. Because the highs of love, and sometimes even the lows, depending on like your childhood and how you define love, can be so addicting. And we do this cycle because we want to experience aspects of the cycle, and we abandon ourselves for love. And I think that's also why love can be so scary, you know, like why when someone kind of comes into your life and they like you, you know, they're showing interest, and then the other person is hesitant to join the relationship. That hesitancy, I think, can come from a lot of different places, like maybe it's not right, but I think that even if like it's the right relationship and you're hesitant to do it, it can be from the fear of falling in love and abandoning yourself, because maybe you know what it's like to love someone and go through that cycle where you're so heartbroken, and then you make up, and that the connection of making up with someone feels so, it's so connecting. It's like, oh, I've never felt more connected to someone in my life, so this is good. But then you experience on the other side, you're like, but why do I feel like I'm running my throat dry by trying to express myself and still not receiving what I'm asking for or saying that I need? And we do it all in the name of love. And it's the deep healing of the part of ourselves that's so angry at certain things that we think are love. We're like, because I've noticed myself, I'll be like, when I'm so angry, I'll be like so, that's the feeling of, that's the emotion that's happening, is I'll feel anger. When I feel like I'm abandoning my own self for love. But it's not necessarily that I'm angry at the person. I'm actually angry at myself for doing it again. I'm like, oh, how did I get here again? And I get angry at my own self, which logically seems unhelpful. So then I try to look at it differently. I'm like, okay, how can I not be angry at myself? Okay, forgive. I need to forgive myself for falling for that again, for over-explaining myself when I said what I said. Needing, like, just trusting your final word, and trusting that the part of you that was upset for the first half of the day up until 3 p.m. and suddenly flowers show up, trusting that that part of you is speaking to an unhealed aspect of yourself, because there's a reason that you're putting yourself through that. And we don't like to look at things like that, because looking at it like the pain we're experiencing, that we're putting ourselves through it, is like a deep sense of self-ownership that's very uncomfortable. But I mean, that's kind of what that's what Jungian shadow work literally is looking at that. And you're going to continue, I feel like I'll continue that same cycle until I really look at the part that's angry and be there with it. Because that's the part of you that is mistaking something for love. Like maybe you had a really critical parent, and so there's literally a part of you that is like, oh, like love is criticism. And so when it happens in a relationship, you don't see it as a red flag. You see it as normal. Yeah. Maybe I'll do a part 2 with my sister on this. But I just wanted to share how much we abandon ourselves for love, and how the answer, I don't think, is to be like super cautious in falling in love, but it's learning how to trust our own self to be in love, and trust ourselves both to cleanly exit if it's not serving us, and trust, before even that, trust that we know, so that, like, trusting that your intuition is actually there, and not doubting yourself. Is there anything else I feel like I should say? There might be something. Oh, well, I don't want this to go too long, so I'll share it in another video.